Hi, I am Bob, and I'm going to show you how to configure a validation workflow with AODocs document management. Right now, I am working on a contract document in a library dedicated to managing contracts. I've created a draft contract, which I can now send for approval by clicking on the Workflow button. From the confirmation pop-up, I can add a short message for the legal team and then hit Save. Now we can switch to Alice's account, who is a member of the legal team. We can see that she has received a notification email stating that the contract is waiting for her approval. The email contains a diagram which describes the workflow states. First, the initial state, which will be the draft of the contract. Once the draft is ready, it can be sent to the legal team for approval by the document creator. The second state is waiting for approval. The legal team can either reject the contract, which will send it back to draft, or approve it, which will transition it to the next and third state, validated contracts. Then, if the contract has an expiration date in the list of properties, the workflow has a last archived state for contracts which have reached their expiration date. Alice is able to approve or reject the contract directly from her email. Or she can also click on the contract name, which will open the document in AODocs. Here she can read and edit the contract and then approve or reject it using the Workflow button. Now let's go back to my account. I will show you how to create and configure this workflow in AODocs. Let's access the administration console. First, we will configure the legal team role. The members of the legal team are the people who are authorized to approve or reject a contract. Let's go to the Roles section. We can see that there are system roles already defined. Let's create a custom one by selecting Add New Value and giving it a name. I can then edit the access list by adding users: Carolyn and Alice. We can now save the changes. Then, before actually configuring the workflow, I need to define the buttons users will be able to click on for validating, rejecting, and so on. From the workflow sections, under the user actions, we see there are already some default labels for the actions, such as approve and reject. The first column contains the label of the action button and should be a verb, such as approve. The second column contains the past participle of the verb, which will be included into the email notification, for instance, to let users know a contract has been approved. For my example, I need to add Send for Approval. I can do it by clicking on Add New Value and writing down the action name, then press Enter. I can then edit the action to update the past participle, which will now be Sent for Approval in our example. I am now able to create the workflow. For doing so, I can click on Add New Value in the top section and add the name of the workflow. Then I press Enter, and the system automatically assigns the workflow to the contract class because that's the only class in this library. One workflow can be assigned to one class only, and one class can have only one workflow assigned to it. The next step consists in configuring the workflow states and transitions. Let's click on the workflow name. First, we define the initial draft state. All new contracts will be, by default, in this state. To add the other states, I click on Add New State. The second state, for our example, is waiting for approval. Then, I add the third state for the validated contracts, and lastly, the fourth state for the archived ones. Now that the states are created, I can configure the workflow transitions, which are the ways documents can go from one state to another. Let's begin from the initial draft state. Draft contracts will transition to waiting for approval if they are sent for approval by the document creator. For the waiting for approval state, I set up 2 transitions. First, the contracts will go to the valid state if they are approved by any single member of the legal team, or they will go back to the draft state if they are rejected by the legal team. For the next state, validated contracts, we will configure an automatic transition. The contracts will be moved to the archived contracts state when the expiration date is reached. Don't forget to save your changes. Our workflow is set up and ready to be used. With AODocs, automate document-centric processes to better structure and organize your business. To learn more about AODocs features, please visit our video center.